scent of the sea breeze is on your nose as you start to map out your brand new city. All you need are some constructions and critters, and before you know it, you'll have a bustling seaside town to call your own. This is Farshore, which is based on the hit game Everdell and is once again designed by James and Clarissa A. Wilson and published by Tabletop Tycoon, who sponsored this video. While this game is based mechanically on Everdell, there are new opportunities to explore, so let's get this game down to the table so we can show you how to play Farshore. In Farshore, players will be building out a new town on the coast of the Forever Sea. New constructions and critters can be built, and just like Everdell, here you'll be trying to have the most prosperous year possible by spending your workers to collect resources and play constructions and critters into your town, all with their own effects. Before we dive into this year, let's go over the setup for Farshore. To start, place the board in the center of the table with the lighthouse just above the board if you wish to use it. Place all resources on the board in their designated spots on the shoreline, which going from left to right is driftwood, seaweed, sea stones, and mushrooms. Point and treasure tokens can be placed off the board nearby. Next, sort the map tiles by type and place them on the board in ascending value with the 2s on top. If you're playing with only 3 players, use 1 fewer 1 tile, leaving 1 2, 1 1, and 1 0 tile. In a 2-player game, use only a 2 and 1 value map tile. Next, it's time to shuffle the island tiles and randomly select 1 tile per player. Place these tiles along the bottom of the board below the bay, placing the rest back in the box. Now it's time to sort the windrose tiles into stacks of A's and B's. These stacks will be placed in the top right corner of the board, and 1 tile from each stack will be turned face up. Next, shuffle the main deck of cards and place the stack face down on the left side of the lighthouse. A face down discard pile will be created on the right side of the lighthouse later. Draw cards for each of the 8 spots in the center of the board known as the bay. If any duplicate cards are ever drawn, stack them on top of each other and draw another card. In turn order, the first player draws 5 cards from the deck, with the next player drawing 6 cards, a third player drawing 7, and finally a 4th player drawing 8 cards. Finally, each player chooses a worker type and takes 3 of those workers, placing 2 in their play area and another on their ship, placing that ship on the starting space just below the main board. Each player takes 3 anchors, and then it's anchors away, with the saltiest player going first. Now that the game is set up, it's time to get building. Players will once again be going through a year starting off in winter. Players will place out workers gaining resources and play cards with a variety of effects and benefits. Eventually, players will need to recoup their workers by preparing for the next season, allowing them to continue building their budding city. There are lots of ways to get you what you need to have a successful city, so let's go over what players might be doing on their turn. On a turn, players have one of 3 things they can do. First, if they have at least 1 worker remaining, they can play a worker to a location on the board or in their player area to trigger its ability. There are shoreline locations which will grant players the resources showing above them. Each one of these locations can only house 1 worker, which is denoted by the single web footprint inside the action space. There will also be island locations which will usually provide better rewards, and each can be visited by 1 worker at a time. The docks location can house any number of workers, and each time it is visited, the active player can discard up to 3 cards, and for each card discarded, they may gain any 1 resource. The lookout location allows players to discard as many cards from their hand as they like before drawing that many cards up to their hand limit of 8 from the deck or the bay. When drawing these cards, you may draw in any combination from these 2 locations. After the bay has cards removed from it, be sure to refill the bay, remembering to stack any duplicates of cards that are drawn. The dunes will allow you to claim map tiles if you have the listed card types already in play in your city. For example, to take this map tile, you would need 1 of each type of card in your city. You will always take the topmost map tile available, and you may only ever collect 1 of each type of map tile in the game. The last place you can place workers is on red destination cards that you have placed in your city. And on that note, let's talk about playing cards. The next type of action you can take on your turn is playing a card into your city. Cards come in a few varieties. First, you'll notice that cards come in 2 main types, critters and constructions. Constructions are the various buildings that will inhabit your towns, and critters are those who will live in it. Constructions and critters come in common and unique types. You may play duplicates of any common cards into your city, but you may not have more than 1 copy of a unique construction or critter. Card layouts are always similar. On the left side of the card will be that card's cost. Constructions will cost different combinations of driftwood, seaweed, and sea stones, while critters will cost mushrooms. On the banner in the middle of the card will be the card's name, and just below it whether the card is common or unique, construction, or critter. To the left of the banner will be the type of card it is. On the right of the card will be the card's point value, with a symbol below showing how many copies of that exact card there are in the main deck. Finally, at the bottom of the card, there will be a description of that card's effects. Cards come in 5 types, all of which act slightly different. Green production cards will activate when they are played, and again as you prepare for the spring and autumn seasons. Blue governance cards will provide bonuses when you play certain cards or perform certain actions. Beige traveler cards activate once when played. Red destination cards give you additional places to place your workers, and purple prosperity cards will give you bonus points depending on what you did in the game. When dealing with cards, there are a few things to keep in mind. As a reminder, you may not have duplicate copies of unique critters or constructions locations in your city. Your city only has 15 spaces in it, and once full, no more cards can be played to your city unless they specify that they do not take up a space in your city, such as the Shipwreck or Castaway. You also have a strict hand limit of 8 cards, and if your hand is full, you may not draw cards or willfully discard cards to make more room in your hand. If you ever need to draw cards for your hand or refill the bay and the main deck is empty, simply reshuffle the discard pile to form a new main deck. Each card's cost must be paid in full unless you have an ability that states otherwise. Each player is granted 3 anchors at the start of the game, however, and players may use an anchor by playing it on a construction in their city, which will allow them to play a critter of the same color for free. Be advised, you only have 3 anchors in the game, so choose their usages wisely. Be sure to check your blue governance cards for any card playing abilities, and one may be selected when playing a card. For example, the Customs Officer allows you to replace one resource cost with one of another type when playing a card. Place the newly played card to your city, resolving its effect if applicable, and then be sure to trigger any effects on other cards. Next, check the 2 Windrose tokens on the board. They will each show a type of card, with the A stack showing common, unique, critter, or construction, and the B stack showing the types of cards. When you play a card, check to see if your newly played card matches with one or both of the Windrose tiles. For each match you make, you may move your ship one space along the bottom of the board. As your ship travels, it may land on or pass treasure tokens. Each time this happens, collect a treasure token. Treasure tokens may be used as a wild resource, or they can be saved and they'll be worth 2 points at the end of the game. Players will also earn points equal to their furthest traveled space with their ship. If your space reaches the 60-point space, it can no longer travel. Be advised that certain card effects will also trigger your ship to move. Okay, so I've been collecting resources and playing cards, finding all sorts of fun combinations, but now I'm finding myself without workers to use or resources to spend, and when that happens, it's time to prepare for a new season, which will give me back my workers along with a new worker. Once a player has run out of workers and has no more cards they can or want to play, they can instead prepare for the next season. One thing to note, players will not necessarily prepare for the next season at the same time, and taking this action takes a player's whole turn. What you do when preparing for a season depends on which season you are about to enter, and preparing for a season always allows you to recall your workers. When preparing for spring, you will first gain a new worker, and then each green production card already in your city will once again activate in any order that you wish. When preparing for summer, gain a new worker and draw 2 cards from the bay. In autumn, you gain your final worker and you can draw 2 cards from the deck and or bay, and then you may once again activate all of your green production cards. Each time the last player to prepare for a season is preparing, there will also be a change in the winds, and the top Windrose tiles of both stacks will be replaced by a new tile awarding ship movement for different types of cards. Additionally, when the last player who hasn't prepared for summer prepares, they will also bring about high tide, and 2 island tiles of their choice will be flipped face down for the rest of the game. Players will continue playing cards, making use of their workers as best they can, but eventually after the autumn season has played out, it will be time for each player to end their game. Each player may end their game by passing at a different time. Once all players have passed and completed their game, it'll be time to tally final scores. First, players will score any points for point tokens collected during the game and then gain points equal to the listed value of all played cards. Be sure to check for all purple prosperity cards to see if you met the requirements for scoring bonus points. Leftover treasure tiles are worth 2 points each. Maps will give points based on how many map tiles you collected, which will be multiplied by their individual value. The more the better. So for example, if I'd collected 3 map tiles, one worth 2 points, one worth 1 point, and one worth 0 points, I would score 9 points total. The value 2 map tile would give me 6 points total, as I have 3 map tiles each worth 2 points. My 1 value tile will be worth 3 points, and my 0 value tile will not be worth anything on its own, but it will have contributed to the value of my other map tiles. The easiest way to calculate this score is to add up all the values of your map tiles and multiply that by the total number of map tiles you have. Finally, you'll gain points based on your ship's final location, and the player with the highest score wins. Farshore provides a lot of familiarity to Everdell, which makes sense as they are both set in different areas of the same world, but Farshore provides players with new card abilities, critters, constructions, and locations to use. If you're familiar with Everdell, you can check out the back of the Farshore rulebook to quickly learn the differences between these games. There's also a solo mode in Farshore for you to explore, and if you'd like to learn more about Farshore, be sure to visit its page at BoardGameGeek.com. And until next time, I'm Mike Murphy, and that is how you play Farshore. Have a great day.